tuned into another discussion with Dena. Sapelo Island draws hundreds of visitors annually to celebrate the Gullah Geechee Heritage Festival. This year, it was held Saturday, October 19th. Now, the Gullah Geechee people are direct descendants of enslaved African people here in America who were brought there in the early 1800s. Their forefathers, as well as their descendants, have been on this land for hundreds of years and started as slaves on the plantations. Now, the plantations stretch from Charleston, South Carolina to Jacksonville, plantations that were confiscated by the Union Army during and after the Civil War. Union General William Sherman, in accordance with Savannah's black preachers and other leaders, planned to distribute the land as a form of reparations to these freed black people, along with the 40-acre plots. Now, this was according to Special Field Order number 15. But as we know, within a year, President Andrew Johnson abandoned the order and returned much of the land to colonizers or white slave owners. Now, Sapelo Island, which is about 60 miles south of Savannah, is only reachable by boat. And in this case, the state-run ferry between Meridian and the island takes about 20 minutes. Now, Gullah and Geechee remain on coastlines and barrier islands running from North Carolina down to Florida, but their future is still imperiled despite this being designated Gullah Geechee corridor. Now, patrons were partaking in this Gullah Geechee annual celebration, and they were said to be being transported back and forth by the ferry, and well over 700 people were in attendance, and they are noted as being transferred by the ferries for this joyous celebration of culture and history. Unfortunately, it is being reported that a tragedy occurred and at least 20 people fell into the water. These are elderly people. They fell into the water when one of the docks collapsed. At least 7 were killed and 6 were critically injured. Now, it was really a tragic turn of event that unfolded, and this was late Saturday as visitors were leaving the celebration, and there were reports from Walter Rabin, who is the commissioner of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. And the Natural Resources Department actually operates the ferries as well as the dock. And he said up to 40 people could have been on the gangway at the time of this failure. 7 people, black people, ranging in age from 73 to 93, died. They were crossing this 80-foot aluminum gangway to board a ferry at a dock on Sapelo Island when it gave way, sending them plummeting into the water. Again, he said it was over 700 visitors, and it is said to be about 7 times the normal traffic on the ferries, and that the ferries that connect the islands to the mainland. So when he was asked if this could be a reason why it may have contributed to the collapse, he responded that possibly the extra stress could have been a factor. Now, the dock and the gangway were constructed in 2021 and was last inspected in December. He further noted that his agency's Critical Incident Reconstruction Team and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation are investigating this catastrophic failure of this gangway.
Hundreds of visitors traveled to Sapelo Island in celebration of Cultural Day to celebrate and honor the Gullah Geechee heritage. This is an annual event hosted by the Sapelo Island Cultural and Revitalization Society. Heartbreakingly, these celebrations ended in a tragedy as a gangway that led from the dock to the ferry collapsed and approximately 20 people fell into the water at the Marsh Landing dock. Guests were in the process of loading the ferry, the Anne Marie, which was tied up to the dock. There were 2 additional ferry runs that were scheduled to take place after the ferry run where the tragedy occurred. At this time, we can confirm 7 deceased individuals and 3 individuals that remain in the hospital in critical condition. The initial findings of our investigation at this point show a catastrophic failure of the gangway, causing it to collapse. I can assure you that the Department of Natural Resources Critical Incident Reconstruction Team will be working tirelessly in conjunction with engineers and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to gather and preserve evidence and interview witnesses.
Now, the island is said to be home to about 70 full-time residents of the Hog Kamet community. It's said to be the only intact, that is, documented community of saltwater Geechee left in the world. They are part of the Gullah Geechee, direct descendants of Africans brought over as slaves for their expertise in rice and indigo cultivation, West Africans, that is. Now, no residents of the island were among the fatality. It is because he credited bystanders as well with quickly responding to assist. It saved additional lives in the hours that followed. Even the Coast Guard helicopters and boats were equipped with sonar and conducted search and rescue efforts. Now, there were many heartfelt accounts that really had you emotional just listening to them recount this tragic event. And even one young lady revealing that she tried to save her uncle but could not, and she watched him sink to the bottom. That's horrific. Survivors and relatives, all of whom were Black. Because of this incident, there are questions of negligence from the family, from members of the community, and even the Black caucus in Georgia. Questions on how such an incident could have occurred. Where was the failure here, and who is responsible? And most of all, how to prevent this from ever happening again. Called for a federal investigation into this tragedy. National Civil Rights Attorney Benjamin Crump has been retained to represent some of the family members of the victims and has said they will not let this be swept under the rug. Crump also noted that had these been 7 white people who died on that gangway, you would have had federal investigations, you would have had resources being offered immediately to the community. The Black senior citizens who were killed had been visiting this island for this specific cultural event that was hosted by the Gullah Geechee people, he said. And they were just there for a celebration that turned tragedy because of malfeasance. This is what Crump alleges. Now, the incident left 3 others in critical condition and is said to be currently being investigated again by the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, which again operates the Marsh Landing Dock on Sepulveda Island, where the tragedy occurred. As well included is the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Now, one Gullah Geechee resident stated that everyone is family and everyone knows each other there. And in any tragedy, especially like this, they are all one, he said, and they're all united. They all feel the same pain and the same hurt. Now, names of those elderly people who lost their lives were released on Monday. The youngest one was 73 years old. 4 were from Jacksonville, Florida. Isaiah Thomas, 79. Carlotta McIntosh, 93. Jacqueline Cruz Carter was 75. And Cynthia Allen Gibbs, 74. 2 were from the Atlanta area. Queen Welch was 76. And William Lee Johnson Jr., 73. Also killed was Department of Natural Resources chaplain Charles Lee Houston, who was 77. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Tell me what you think about this topic. Be sure to subscribe and leave me your thoughts on this topic of conversation. And join me next time for another discussion with Dena. Ta-ta.
This concludes the Daily Discussions with Dena. Join us Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.